I ended the last season and I was really tired because I filmed that for a very long time. So here we are on the next day to explain season 2. So let's jump right in. Before we get started in how this season goes, I hope you guys enjoyed the last video. We're going to go over some characters that should be highlighted throughout this season. There is a big group that Clementine encounters in this, so I won't highlight each and every one of them. Luke is a pretty big character that you meet throughout the season. He helps Clementine a lot and gives her the benefit of the doubt when not a lot of them do when they first meet her. Clementine obviously is a big character throughout this. Krista kind of is, but not really. It depends. Her character kind of becomes a side character in this season. There are some other characters that I would like to highlight. One of them being Carver. Carver is kind of the antagonist in this season. He does a lot of shitty things throughout the season that kind of makes up much of the story for this current season and what Clementine has to go through. Kenny. I know this is kind of a spoiler, but you do interact with Kenny and Jane. They both have a very big significance through the ending of this season. Now, I mentioned this last video, but we are going to talk about what happened with Telltale Games if you guys didn't know.
And fellow laid-off employees, it alleges that they were let go without cause and without advanced written notice, which the WARN Act, the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act, requires of employers. If a business has at least 100 full-timers on its staff, then those full-timers must be notified 60 days in advance if a company's going under or if there's going to be a whole round of layoffs. If 50 or more employees are let go within a month, then the WARN Act requires employees get warned.
This happened right before the last season of The Walking Dead. They were able to release that. So overall, a lot of these employees actually just never were told that they were being laid off, never got any severance, and working a lot. They were making many episodic episodes for different games, not only The Walking Dead, but also The Wolf Among Us, and no breaks. A lot of this really added to the lawsuit and kind of how Telltale started to fall off slowly and slowly. That's all that I've gathered in terms of the lawsuit. We're going to continue with season 2 of The Walking Dead, and this is where it all begins. Now, as I mentioned, Krista and Omid are still together and you end up finding them as Clementine. Now that Clementine is on her own, you play as her for majority of this season and onwards because you don't have Lee anymore, so you are now Clementine. Time passes on and Krista is pregnant as shit. They find a public bathroom. Clem goes inside to freshen up and ends up losing her bottle. She runs to catch it into the stall when someone walks in. Clem walks out while the girl tries to steal from Clem and then walks in Omid. But Omid forgets that, a bathroom door closes. So he was sneaking up, but the door kind of closed and gave his position away. That was not really smart of him, but he did do that. The girl hears it and shoots Omid. Omid instantly dies. Krista walks in after hearing all the ruckus and sees Omid dead and instantly shoots the girl, no hesitation, I swear. After that, obviously, I assume because of the loss of Omid, Krista really went through it. It's been some time after, and you see Clem and Krista struggling. Krista is visibly not pregnant at this point. She either lost the baby or I'm assuming she has ended up losing the baby after Omid's death, which is why I can understand why she's very Clem, not angry with Clem, but very fussy and annoyed and frustrated. Krista goes to get wood while Clem looks through her bag, kind of going through memory lane, seeing Lee's picture, a drawing of Kenny, Katja, and Duck, and she even finds a lighter to start the fire itself. It's kind of nice seeing all those pictures all together, especially after season 1. It's nice to see. You hear yelling that seems like fighting. Krista is basically getting harassed by another group. You distract them and get separated from Krista. And quick, anyway, she fights the dude off and falls into the river. You wake up at a random part of the land and make your way to the forest and meet Sam. Now, welcome to Sam the dog's mini story. He belonged to the family that's camp was nearby you. You play catch with him until he spots a zombie and starts barking at it. Pretty sure the guy you find in the photo, aka ends up being Sam's owner. You end up killing him and grabbing the knife out of his body. You find beans and open them up to feed yourself and the dog, when suddenly Sam does not want to share and bites Clem's hand. You defend yourself and realize you kicked him into a sharp, what looks like metal object. And when you get close up to the dog, he is obviously just dying. At this point, you get an option of killing the dog or letting it suffer. You end up moving away from the area, cold with a bitten hand. Clem kind of breaks down, which is really, really sad to see, losing vision, and starts to notice zombies. She starts running away with what little strength she had, and you're saved by two men, Luke and Pete. And they start asking if you're okay. What happened? You mentioned being attacked by another group. They start asking a lot of questions about the group as if they may have interacted with one of them. Luke drops you, noticing you have a bite. Goes all over dramatic like his world is about to end. You tell him that it's a dog bite, but they don't believe you. They do seem to look unsure about what to do with you. They can't really leave you there. You end up passing out and waking up to a bunch of the rest of Luke's group, fighting on what to do with Clementine. And this dumbass with the hat shoots beside us as you speak. That guy annoys me so much, but Luke defends you by letting another person in the group look at your bite. Literally, Clem could offer to just leave and not intrude on the group because they don't want her here and just go on her merry way, because technically you're still strangers. Clem has no attachment to you, but I don't know what it is. These guys end up still looping back to, okay, we'll let you go and see how long you last out there. It's like, okay, but you don't want me in the group, but then you also are like, okay, but if we let you go, will you even last out there? Then why are you complaining? What in the dumbass shit is this? This group really pissed me off when I started the season. It was not fun, because I just remember being like, thanks for saving me, I don't need to stay here. I'm not required to stay here. You don't have to take care of me, and you don't need to figure out if you should let me in. I could just go. Literally. They end up locking you into a shed with not care for any of the bite that you have gotten from that dog, which will most likely end up killing Clem before she even turns, because it's not tended to at all. So Clem goes into stealth mission to try and sneak into the house and clean up her arm and bite. You get the supplies you need with the help of Sarah, Carlos's daughter, and even gather some tea about the pregnant lady.
Just need to have this baby. Let it be okay, and let it be his.
And she's not sure if that baby is hers. Probably not supposed to be here, but I'm also hearing tea about this pregnant lady. Okay, cool. You stitch yourself up in the shed and you get attacked by a zombie that comes through the hole, only for the group to open the door and release you. Not only did you take care of the bite, but you also end up killing the zombie. Obviously, everybody's impressed, and they're like, maybe we should have just let her in. Yeah, maybe you should have, okay? Maybe you should have. You're let inside while everyone still thinks you're Hitler at this point. You get pressed by Carlos because he figures out his daughter helped you. Tells you, don't talk to her, she's special, she doesn't know what's happening in the world out there, aka really sheltered. It does seem like Sarah has a lot of anxiety, and it's probably because she was never exposed to what has been going on and was never really prepared for what is happening, or even prepared for what could happen to her father in the future. You sit down and finally have a meal, properly patched up, and now everyone's here to say sorry. I still never liked Nick, but he does come in and say sorry and shares a little bit about what he's been through. He was the same dude who ends up shooting you while you wake up on the ground earlier in the story. He shares his story and you share your own, explaining what happened to you to Luke was hard to hear again, because you really just go over Lee, and hearing Lee one more time in season 2 is just not fun. At this point in the game, I don't know if y'all felt this way. The person playing this game had some type of responsibility, and I feel like you guys felt this, not even just season 2, but onwards, of you feel like you're responsible of Clementine, you feel like you're taking care of her, and that's just, I remember how I felt when I started this season. I'm like, oh, I'm Lee now, you know? Storytelling makes me feel, honestly, it really felt like Clem ended up being your own child, like that specifically, which is really rare to feel that way, and I appreciate that from the game. That was just a side note, but it does feel like we're taking care of Clem and that we're Lee now. But next day, you're out fishing with Nick and Pete, only to find dead bodies by the river. You grab your bag that you find there somehow, but walkers start trickling in, and you gotta choose who to go to, Nick or Pete. They never really tell you this, but the game basically should have specified as choose who to go to, not who to rescue. Because apparently whoever you choose is whoever you rescue. Whatever. If you save Pete, he is attacked but escapes with Clementine but is severely bit on the leg. If you save Nick, he blames you and survives, and you hide out in a shed while he throws bottles at a wall and continues to be inconsiderate to you, also a baby. But I won't go too hard on him. He did lose another family member and he has gone through things in the apocalypse, but sometimes he needs to use his brain cells from time to time, if I'm gonna be honest. And that's the end of episode 1. Moving on to episode 2, A House Divided. I forgot to mention this during the first episode of the season, but you do hear about a man named Carver. You run back to the house after Nick decides to be a distraction and get the walkers towards him. After you're both stuck in a shed together, you go home and run into Rebecca and Carlos, asking you what happened. You explain to them they also set out to look for Luke and Alvin, who went to look for Clem initially. You're now home alone with Sarah, until William Carver comes walking into the house, and literally when I mean walking, he just walked in. He owned the place, investigated it, aka stranger danger, just saying, trying to find the rest of the group, including Sarah, who was hiding at this point. Once the group came home, you told them and you set off to a different place. I do think Clem was very, very smart in this instance. Her being there alone definitely caught this guy off guard, but you really, really gotta choose which options you say to him, because he can figure out that you're with people, or that you're alone, or that there may be a group of people that, you know, you gotta be careful of what you say here. Anyway, you all pack up and leave the home. On your way to the new area, Nick is still alive and well, which is amazing. So you do meet up with him, you have him join the group. He's still a bit sad about Pete, but it's not as bad as it was before. And it's really funny because he's like very sad while he's walking with you, and then all of a sudden he does some type of Michael Jackson move and walks backwards while everyone moves forwards. I don't know if it's a glitch in the game, but it looked really goofy on my end.
Fuck.
You make it to the bridge and a big mountain with a lodge at the top. We meet a guy halfway on the bridge, only for Nick to shoot the guy. Lovely. This is just going splendid, isn't it? As you come down from one of the things that they instructed you to do, because you're a grown-ass, grown-ass adult that has to do everything for the group or whatever, you come down and see the group talking to somebody else. At first, it seems like they're arguing, and then when Clem goes and sees who it is...
Kenny!
Wait, you know this guy? Clementine?
Well, guess who it is? It is motherfucking Kenny. When I first saw this, my mouth dropped. I did not even think I would see Kenny after season 1. Because technically, I know it's open to interpretation if you think he died or whatever, but at this point, it's not open to interpretation, and he's alive. I know despite his personality, he's a character that can kind of be an issue within the seasons, and he does become much of an issue within this season, but it is still very, very nice to see him again. Anyway, you are welcomed into the most cozy cabin ever, and you catch up with Kenny. You meet 2 new characters, Sarita and Bald Guy, who cooks very good. Yum, yum, yum.
Anyway,
Kenny doesn't really trust the rest of your group, which honestly is super fair. I never did either, but I'm here. Especially with how much they didn't trust me. As you go out throughout the cabin, everybody's interacting with different people, getting to know each other.
Right here, Clem. Good one, Einstein.
Yeah, Krista and I were going there.
Supposed to be a big camp up near Michigan. Michigan? You got a hearing problem, kid? Yeah, Michigan. Think about it. Fresh water, lots of land, and cold-ass winters so the walkers get slow.
Sounds like bullshit.
Listen, Vanilla Ice, I don't know what your deal is, but you're more than welcome to take off in the morning.
And throughout this happening, Matthew is mentioned multiple times. If you didn't put two and two together, Matthew is the guy that you shoot on the bridge that is Walter's partner. And let's just say Walter figures out and he's about to crash out. He definitely, I wouldn't even be surprised if he ended up attacking Nick, but he doesn't really end up attacking Nick, which I'm surprised. He had a lot of self-control. During this time, you also meet a girl named Bonnie, where she, honestly, very smartly, Carver sent her to you guys. I feel like it was a very smart move within this time frame. She basically comes up and says she needs food, and Walter, being the kind-hearted he is, gives her food, and she makes her way back down, but really she's just telling Carver that, hey, yeah, they're here, we can capture them now. So a little background about Bonnie. Now, I know Bonnie's there to help Carver, but Bonnie is actually a cameo from The Walking Dead 400 Days, bit of a DLC that came out right after the first season that covered a few survivors, and one of the survivors was Bonnie. So she makes a bit of a cameo in this season, which I think is very, very cool to do if you played the DLC. The wind turbines are starting to get hella loud. You gotta shut it down, and once it's shut down, a bunch of zombies zoom in, including Carver's group, cleaning up the zombies while all of you are there. Then they bring you into the lodge for basically a hostage situation at this point. Sarita, Carlos, Walt, Nick, and Sarah are tied up while he calls for Rebecca and for his baby. You are basically at this point with Rebecca, Alvin, and it's you three, and you're basically trying to sneak around and find a way to get everybody out of this stupid situation. There is at some point where Carver has a potential of killing Carlos, and if you don't show yourselves, he will kill Carlos, and basically you have a choice to give up and let Rebecca show herself or find Luke and Kenny during this time. When you give up, Carlos is saved and all three of you go down to the bottom floor. Kenny and Luke start shooting from the outside, which ends up killing Walter in the process, because if one of theirs dies, so does somebody else on the inside, which sucks because I know we didn't know Walter too long, but he didn't deserve that, especially with what he knew already. But at the same time, maybe it's for the best, right? Kenny surrenders and you're all taken to Carver's camp. And this is when episode 2 ends and we start with episode 3, In Harm's Way. You pan to a fight in the van.
Capitulation. I don't know what the fuck you're saying, but I know it's bullshit.
It kills me every time, like whenever Kenny says that. But you're basically in a van tied up and you're going to the big camp or area that Carver had this original group in before they basically escaped. The area you're in is like a very trash reality TV looking ass room. Feels like you got cameras and shit on you and a bunch of chairs and some beds and you're just locked in. And that's when you meet Reggie. He's missing an arm and seems to know the group you were with. Since he lost his arm, you do ask about it, and he said they did cut off his arm because he got bit.
This could have been worse,
but they did it
trust me.
immediately, which is why he
alive.
didn't turn. Okay, sure. Then you meet Lee 2.0. He's angry and he goes back to sleep. His name is actually Mike. And you meet a woman named Jane, but you don't know her name yet, so to you she's just a mystery and really cool looking. You wake up to Sarah yapping too much and getting slapped by her own dad while Carver is still ruthless. You move on to working with Bonnie by loading magazines. You're called to another part of the camp, the greenhouse. Reggie is in charge and you're cutting leaves / picking berries, when you have a choice of helping Sarah to do her own work or do yours, basically. So you can either help Sarah or you can do your own. I think either way, Reggie gets in trouble and is pushed off the roof by Carver, which is how Reggie dies, which is insane. You're sent to give nails to Kenny and Lee 2.0 as they're fighting each other. Zombies pile in and it's a shit show. You leave the area and get dragged away by Luke, who is alive, and well, he lets you know that a herd really big is on its way, and it's getting out is the best option right now. So he's somehow found a way inside and also helping you guys. Luke asks for a walkie-talkie. You get radioed to see Carver. You reach the office to Alvin, passed out, beat up on a chair in his office. Bill starts talking about Reggie like he didn't just kill him. I know for sure be a you-know-what-who supporter. And no, it's not Voldemort. Just picture a dude in a red hat. Moving on, he thinks you're a lot like him, that we are tough. You're sent back to the yard and it's night at this point. Everyone's talking about Luke's plan on how to get out at this point. So basically everyone's just sharing information. The cool lady, Jane, finally starts speaking and takes Clem to the ladder. They make a plan to get Clem to the roof to try and get the walkie-talkies and take one back to you before bedtime, which ends up being successful, and Clem is just, you know, an adult at this point, right? She gotta do everything. The next morning, you are given the radio to find Luke when Kenny goes into dad mode and stuffs that walkie-talkie into your pockets. You can either confide in Bonnie to help you with this plan, or you don't trust her at all. You make your way to Luke to realize he's not there and you get caught. Everyone's back at the main area and you see Luke and you realize they caught Luke too. And Carver is upset and starts beating Kenny. Smacks you, and Bonnie comes and tells Carver there's a breach and tells everyone that they are leaving tonight.
Do your best with him, Carlos. You need to get him able to move, because we're leaving tonight.
Probably finally realizing how shit Carver has become, but hey, that took her a while. You wake up after being hit in the face by Carver, to everyone either wanting to leave now or later. Kenny's eye at this point is really messed up. He basically lost it. Like, you can't see from that eye at all. You make the plan to officially leave tonight. Clem has to boot up the PA because no one else wants to, but Clem is a grown adult, you know, that makes so much sense. She has to boot up the PA system, duh. They make her do so much from the second season onward, guys. Might as well pay me every time, because geez, I get you are playing as Clem and she's the main character and you have to play in her perspective, but realistically, I'm a kid, bro. I'm not gonna go do all this adult shit. I can only do so much. You make it to the PA and you blast music through it to the outside. All the zombies are coming and Alvin is alive, but tells you he won't go on. He wants his revenge. You respect his choices and leave to get back to everyone. While all of them are getting yelled by Carver, you jump his ass. Yeah. And Kenny punches him while Luke takes his gun, and Rebecca hears about Alvin and she's just like, shoot him.
I'm so sorry.
Kill him.
And I'm like, geez, Rebecca, honestly, me too, I feel that. And then Kenny shoots Carver. And he's lying on the floor. And Kenny picks up a crowbar. And if you know what this is insinuating, he's gonna beat the shit out of him. And so he lets everybody know to go wait outside. At this point, you have a choice to leave Kenny and not look, or you can stay and watch it happen. If you leave after the scene, it starts to change the way characters see Kenny to them. It doesn't matter whether you stay or leave, though. The way people perceive Kenny will change after this. Moving on to escaping this hellhole, you get out and start smearing everyone with zombie guts, because that was the plan, remember? Troy's dumbass comes out of nowhere. Jane calmly and cuntly tries to convince him that it's all good, that they'll be together forever, and then shoots his dick off. Meanwhile, the zombies don't come towards you because of all the guts you're covered in and go straight to Troy, and Troy's dead. You start moving with the people left at Carver's building. You start moving along and going forward very slowly so that the zombies don't catch on that you're a real person. Meanwhile, the people left at Carver's Junction are out there trying to shoot all the zombies, which can be dangerous because they could end up shooting you, which does end up happening because we end up shooting Carlos. Carlos gets shot in the neck and instantly basically falls and gets killed. And this is when Sarah screams and panics, which attracts all the zombies to you and her. She runs off somehow without getting hit by any of the zombies, which is insane to me. I don't know how she did it. You keep trying to move and not to die when you see Sarita get her hand bit. And at this point, you have a hatchet or a machete type weapon with you in your hand. The game is in slow mode, and before the option even comes up, I think a lot of us knew what this meant. It's either to kill the zombie or cut off Sarita's arm. At this point, you can either do whatever. If you don't cut her arm off, she is eaten alive by the zombies, but if you do cut it off, she ends up screaming and getting bit again. Like, bruh, are you serious? If you didn't scream, you wouldn't have been eaten alive after I just cut your arm off. Anyway, that's the end of chapter 3, and here is episode 4, Amid the Ruins. As that happens, Kenny basically blames you. Instantly, as it happens, blames you. Bro, I don't know. Apparently I have to take care of other adults as Clementine, and it's all my fault every time. You also have an option when Sarita's on the ground to kill her, because she's technically gonna turn, and if you don't, you know, whatever. I wasn't really that ruthless, so I ended up not killing Sarita in front of, you know, Kenny. But a lot of people do end up, you know, bashing in her brains with Clem's hatchet. You end up meeting Rebecca and Jane after losing basically everybody because everyone split up and separated. You get through the herd by cutting off the mouth of a walker, which is something I think you also learn in The Walking Dead, the show, because I think Michonne does that, where she cuts off their mouth and then uses them to walk around. Which is slowly a way of Clem learning how to defend herself in different ways from the zombies, and Jane is a big responsibility for that. You make it pretty far away from the herd with you, Rebecca, and Jane. A little fight ends up breaking out about the baby. Rebecca is about to give birth, and Jane is getting really too realistic, but also she's a very negative person. And she just doesn't think there's a point of having the baby or what she should do with the baby. But obviously Rebecca wants to have the baby, and that baby is important to us. Just saying. You find Bonnie, Mike, and Kenny, who are sitting at the meeting spot that you guys agreed to meet at after basically escaping Carver's place. Everyone convinces you to talk to Kenny, and all you get is mean Kenny that goes back to his old ways of acting out when he's grieving at this point. As much as I have a soft spot for Kenny, I did think at some point I can't be around him. The way he acts in certain situation, it just makes it worse for himself, potentially Clem too. So if you know the decision I end up making at the end, then you know. You make your way away from the group. At this point, Jane is giving an advice about how groups and majority of the time not end up being the best. So she tries to let you know and shows her reasons of being alone can be better. But you do combat that with how reasons of being in a group could also be good. But Jane also does end up helping you and teaching you how to survive. She gives you a bunch of tips, specifically hitting the back of the knee and stabbing them in the head. She also shares a little bit about her sister who recently passed. And as you're learning with Negative Jane, you hear Sarah and what sounds like Luke screaming and crying while zombies are around them. You get inside and help them escape. Now you get inside to go and help them escape. You find Nick, who is unfortunately dead at the fence. He had turned, which is very sad, even though he wasn't my favorite character, but he did end up dying. And you kill him before you go inside to go help Sarah and Luke. You get inside, help them escape. Now here you have an option of kinda just letting Sarah die or snapping her out of what she's feeling, because at this point she doesn't want to leave after what happened to her father. From what I remember, I think I end up leaving her. I don't think I convinced her or even tried to convince her because I think I was just so done with her. But it's probably better to just convince her and take her with you. Anyway, you take Sarah back with you and you guys are trying to figure out what to do because Rebecca's water broke. And there's no one here with any experience with babies other than Kenny because he is a father. And you somehow convince Kenny in that tent, and he comes out like he didn't just hate you for 10 years. And he tries to take care of the baby while everybody splits up to find shelter, blankets, everything to help Rebecca in this current time. Now, you split up with Jane and you go and find an area where you can have Rebecca basically rest and have her baby, and also patch up everybody who's sick and hurt. You end up running into a Russian guy named Arvo. He's an interesting dude. A very interesting dude. Jane is not having it. She just wants the meds and wants the guy to basically fuck off. He has basically a big bag of meds for his sister. It's very interesting. Very interesting. You can either scare him off or make a deal with him for him to stay with you. Basically, you end up taking the meds. Well, I think I ended up taking the meds. I don't really remember. But you make a deal, you take the meds, and you now have medication. I don't think we should have scared him off, but there are times where you could scare him off with Jane, and Jane is just the type to not include more people. So, anyway, you make your way back down to go back to the group to let them know that you found a place for Rebecca, and you run into Luke. Luke starts talking about what happened, you catch him up about what happened, and he starts talking about Jane a little, and I'm like, okay, yeah, Jane, Jane's cool, she's not. Yeah, maybe you guys could, you know, talk. And they do talk. Anyway.
I've felt in a long time. I almost forgot what. Clementine!
You make it back to Kenny and Rebecca and let them know that you found a place. You end up finding all the water that you need to help Rebecca and make your way back to the deck, bringing Rebecca, Kenny, and everyone there. But there are a bunch of zombies on your asses at the same time. The deck and ready to give birth while you guys fend off a bunch of zombies. And in this specific situation, Sarah, if you have Sarah with you, she can potentially die here. It's either you save Jane or you save Sarah. I don't know if you don't save Jane what would happen. I assume she would still survive, but Sarah does end up falling from the deck because the deck does break and she's screaming for help. So you could help her or you could let her die. And then the baby is born. At first you thought the baby was dead because it's not breathing, not making any noise, it's not crying. And then it coughs. And then you're like, okay, it's alive. And it's a he. After the birth, you can tell that Rebecca's not doing so well. You wake up and see her holding the baby. And that baby does look like Alvin, for sure. That is Alvin's baby. There's no nothing other than that. Him, on the other hand, notices Jane off to the side and walks up to her. Jane lets her know that she wants to leave and that she's gonna leave for good now. She gives you a nail file and lets you know that you can't trust these people for too long and you can't stay with them for too long. So she just warns you and ends up leaving. You tell Luke. Luke has his little freak out and gets angry. But they definitely had something going on that we didn't even know about. They finally decide to just sleep and head north to Wellington is what Kenny wanted, to find better shelter and more food to help the baby and obviously Rebecca. But they wait until the morning to set out, and you have a choice of waiting or going, I believe, right away. But Rebecca's not in any condition to continue. You can tell she is definitely gonna die after giving childbirth, and there's nothing to help her at all after that. She does seem like she's gonna die any moment. And then you see Arvo, the Russian guy you stole from. But Arvo doesn't come alone. Arvo brings his other Russian mates, and they corner us basically. They're all around us and they have guns. During this whole fight between the Russians and you and how we stole from the Russian group, Rebecca is slowly slumping over and eventually dies and turns into a zombie while everybody's arguing. And you have a choice to shoot her or call for help. I think I shot her. That basically starts a whole shootout among everybody. And the episode ends and episode 5 begins. Episode 5 starts and you it basically pans to you crawling to get the baby. You get the baby, and it's just all war. People are shooting this person, that Arvo is helping his sister Natasha, I believe. I don't know what was going on with her. She turns into a zombie. Clem kills her. It's a big whole thing. The last dude is killed by Jane, and Jane is back. And then that's when you guys take the time to mourn Rebecca and how much of a great mom she would have been. And he really wrapped up in anger at everything. He doesn't think anything rationally at this point, and it's just slowly and slowly showing. Very, very slowly, but it's showing. You end up taking Arvo with you because he offers you a home and more food and supplies and whatever. So he leads you to a home. A home. At this point, everybody's walking and taking shifts with the baby while trying to get to where Arvo wants us to be. During this time, you also offer to clean Kenny's creepy, scaly eye that he doesn't want to show, but you have to clean it anyway. You're basically bonding during this fire and talking and drinking, and it's kind of a nice cozy vibe other than while Jane is off walking around and Kenny's off helping the baby. You set off in the morning, taking turns holding Alvin and following Arvo. And then you find a big, big lake of ice. Now, this, if I'm gonna be honest, this is really dangerous, okay? This sucks. No one wants to walk on ice. And then it's not even just 1 or 2 people, it's like 6 people walking together on this ice. Arvo ends up running and breaking the ice beneath you. The people who make it is Mike, Kenny, and Arvo himself, while the ice is breaking behind you, which includes you, Bonnie, Jane, and Luke. And Bonnie keeps inching over like a dumbass. Now you have a choice to help Luke or cover for him. I think I ended up helping Luke and fall in with him. And Luke is pulled all the way down. Ice breaks, you and Luke fall down, but Luke is dragged all the way down and you are helped by Jane and taken to this warm lodge that seems to be a warm lodge, which is not a warm lodge, by the way. It is literally a house of sticks. That's what Kenny said, and I agree with him. It's a house of sticks. It's nothing cool. He's upset at Arvo. Clem is freezing and wants a fire, and he just starts beating Arvo. Anyway, as you guys are at this cabin, there's a lot of fights on where they should go, and a lot of disagreements. A lot of people don't like the way Kenny's treating Arvo, even though Arvo's not really my favorite character in this whole thing. But yeah, there are times where I don't think Kenny should be doing the things he's doing, but at the same time, Arvo's is not worth it, in my opinion. But apparently it's really worth it to Bonnie and Mike, because you wake up late at night to see Bonnie outside and Mike and Arvo escaping and stealing all the things, all the food you guys had, taking them with them. And hello? Like, what are you guys doing? Are you crazy? Like, come on. I feel like it's a stupid way to leave. I'm disappointed in Lee 2.0 or Mike, whatever his name was. I'm not surprised about Bonnie, though. I knew Bonnie would leave us in a heartbeat, you know? You call out for help for Kenny and Jane, and Arvo decides to shoot you in the shoulder because apparently that's logical. And obviously Kenny and Jane hear that. They go out there and all you hear is fighting, and then you wake up in the back of a car that is being poorly driven by Kenny while Jane is in the passenger seat with AJ. At first, before you wake up, you do have a dream with Lee, and I think a lot of us thought that Clem died, but it was only just a dream. But it was very nice to see Lee again. At this point, Kenny and Jane are fighting in the car on where to go, and Clem is just like, I don't know who to listen to because you both are annoying the shit out of me. At this point, I really don't like that Jane is bringing up all of Kenny's past traumas, thinking that's going to make him less angry. It's so bad. And then Kenny obviously is going to fight back. It's just, I don't really like both of them in this moment, if I'm going to be honest. Jane was helpful in different ways. Kenny is just... The car needs more gas, and Kenny goes to get gas while you, Jane, and AJ are in the car. You're basically blind at this point. There's so much snow around you. You're just blindly shooting the zombies that are coming up to you. while looking for Jane or Kenny or AJ, wherever they are. You get to the rest stop and Kenny is there, but Jane isn't, and AJ's with Jane. But she's empty-handed. And if I'm gonna be honest, I know Jane did this on purpose, just to show or prove a point, but if I'm gonna be honest, this is the ass way to prove a point. It's very shitty. A very shit way to prove a point. I did not like it. One bit. At all. And like now when I think about it, maybe I shouldn't have picked Jane. Anyway, a fight breaks loose because Jane thinks this is the best way to try and let Clementine know that Kenny is not worth it. Like, I don't understand. It's so stupid. The fight gets pretty intense. I mean, Jane is stuffing her eyes into, or her hands into Kenny's eyes. You have an option to shoot somebody, and you choose one or the other. It's either you shoot Jane, or you shoot Kenny. Now when I think about it, I feel like I should have just chose Kenny. Like, I look at this now, when I played the game a few times, I really shouldn't have gone for Jane. I feel like that's a very shitty way of what she was doing and like proving points. It's like there's no point. It's an apocalypse right now. Why do you need to show me how Kenny is? I know how Kenny is. Yeah, he's not the greatest either, but I don't want to see you leaving a child somewhere just to prove a point. Come on. You can either look away and let Jane die, or you can shoot Kenny. You find AJ in a car, nice and warm, basically. Despite finding AJ, I do think Kenny is still out of sorts. He didn't need to kill her, he just really needed to just defend himself as much as he could. But you can see he's slowly going insane, which is very, very sad. If you end up going with Jane, I know Jane ends up committing suicide eventually. And you're left with you and Alvin Jr. You are left with just you, Kenny, and AJ, and you walk away into the snowy distance. And that is the end of that day. Until 9 days later, you're out there with Kenny still, and you find a big fortress with what looks like to be Wellington, I guess. You get to Wellington and they don't let you in because there's too many people in Wellington and not enough food to go around. So she gives you some supplies to take and turn away, basically. Kenny lets her know to take the kids. So he lets her know, hey, you can take Clementine, you can take AJ, and just keep them safe. They can take both Clem and AJ, and that's when you're separated with Kenny. Clem starts crying. It gets pretty sad here. I'm not gonna lie.
Doing this!
Because it's the only way. For both of you.
She doesn't want to leave Kenny, even though he's gone crazy, but at the same time, like, you take your word for it and you stay in Wellington. And Kenny leaves you. Pretty sad. Just thinking about it makes me sad. But he does leave you, even though he wants to keep you and AJ safe, but he knows that you're way safer in a big community. And that's the end of season 2 of The Walking Dead. I hope you guys enjoyed it so far. Anyway, that was the last episode of season 2, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me yap for 2 different filming days about The Walking Dead, but it is seriously such a good game, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble about this amazing world of different zombies and different characters and different storylines to losing even more people. And here we are, season 2 finished, and the next dive that we'll do, don't worry, we'll move on to season 3 and season 4 in the next episode of explaining the world of Telltale's The Walking Dead. But I hope you guys very much enjoyed it, because I know I did. And I'll see you guys in the next 2 seasons.